you read 06880, you know the name Andrew Colabella. He's a frequent commenter. He writes opinion pieces. He contributes great photos. He's everywhere. And that includes Town Hall, where Andrew is an RTM member. The youngest?
Was the youngest. I was unseated last year, but we'll see after this election. I still might. I may take that title back. I don't know yet.
So today on 06880, the podcast, we are going to find out what makes Andrew Colabella tick. Sound good?
All right, here we go.
All right, welcome. So the first question is pretty basic.
Yeah.
Who is Andrew Colabella? How do you define yourself?
I hate that's something that ticks me off, is being asked about myself. I don't know how to talk about myself because normally most people don't ask. So I'm still getting used to that. Westport resident, very passionate about the town, very passionate about the history, where we came from, how we got to where we are today. If you forget history, you're born to repeat it. Where you can learn about Westport is by talking to residents such as yourself. That's where I learned a lot about Westport. I also learned a lot more about Westport starting when I was 15 years old. I started as a lifeguard. Had one save, 92-year-old man off the coast of Post 1. I had a blood pressure of 190 over 120. Saved him. And that's where I started thinking to myself, I think I want to focus the rest of my life on helping people. So from there, I went to guest services. I was facilities supervisor for 3 years, and then I went to Parks and Rec Maintenance Division, where I worked 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 1 or 2 p.m., and I'd go to school every night at the University of Connecticut in Stamford, and I graduated. Once I graduated, got to find a job. I already had a job, but I wanted benefits. I wanted more. So I started working for the city of Norwalk. I was there for about 7 years. But one morning I was driving to work and I had this angst. It was ticking me off. I'm like, I feel like I don't have a connection to my town anymore. I'm driving out and then I'm driving in. I'm seeing there's no sun when I go there, and then there's no sun when I come home. I said, I don't like this one bit. So at age 25, I ran for the RTM. And I always had a passion for government. I interned for Governor Jody Rell. I worked with Lieutenant Paul J. Vance at the Connecticut State Police. I worked with Joe Mioli, or former state rep, Senator Edith Prague, Representative Thomas Reynolds, Lawrence Cafaro. I'm very nonpartisan when it comes to politics. I'm very moderate, I guess you could say. But also, I look at Westport and I don't feather to whether or not what one party wants. I think about what's best for Westport, what is best for all. That's how I define myself, I guess.
Where do you think this passion for history, which is not particularly common with people of your generation, and not particularly common with kids who grow up in Westport, where does this passion for our town and its history come from?
I would definitely say my parents. My mother's history is very interesting. Very short story. She was born February 11th, 1955. She was abandoned at the hospital. She was
Norwalk Hospital?
Bridgeport Hospital, actually. And she was listed in the Connecticut Post as adopted, wanting for a good home, pretty much. And this woman came forward and adopted her, and she lived with them. And then at age 11 or 12, a few days before Christmas, she was kidnapped by her biological father. And she went to go live in this terrible home for about 7 or 8 years. And when she gathered up the courage, she was probably, I think, 18, and she moved out. Her first car was a 1974 BMW 2002 TII. And she was working at a bank. And this very nice woman, who I call my aunt, Sherry Rodia, who lived on Rayfield for the longest time, said, you should be a model. My mother became a model. And she was the Newport cigarette model. She was in lingerie ads, swimming ads. I mean, my mother did everything. She was on billboards all over the United States. She was in magazines. There are people that I talk to this day that still remember her photos. And these are people that I worked with, people I've never met. And then my dad's history is pretty cool too. So my family immigrated here 1871. I went to Ellis Island. I did all the research I could. My great-great-grandfather worked on the Brooklyn Bridge.
From Italy? They came from Italy?
They came from Krakow. Krakow is 2 hours south of Naples. It's now a ghost town. No one lives there. And then we had family in Castelvetrano and Trapani, which is part of Sicily. So I get that. I don't know where the skin complexion, I don't. I get pretty white in the winter. It's terrible. So once they immigrated here, worked on the Brooklyn Bridge, I then followed more about what they did. And I always wanted to know more about my family because I love the history of there's just so much to it. My great-grandfather was born, my great-great-grandfather went back to Italy after the Brooklyn Bridge. After they built it, they went back. I don't know what happened. Maybe there was a family fight and she said, we got to go back. But that's how it goes. And then they came back to America in the early 1900s. They settled and we started a recycling company, scrap metal, construction debris, material. We were one of the first recyclable companies on the Eastern Seaboard. And we had that for well over 3 generations. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. Huh. And it passed on from there. So I always wanted to know how we got to where we were and how we came from. And that's why I celebrate and cherish history so much, because there's a story and there are faces and there are names, and I want to be able to put faces and names to them.
And what is it about Westport that has kept you here? A lot of, your peers, your contemporaries left as soon as they could. Some of them are trying to get back now with families, but you stayed. What kept you here?
So when I was applying for colleges, it was very competitive. I applied to about 13 different schools, probably got into like 6 of them. And these tuitions, they were insane. I had to work full time. I needed to. And I had support from my family, but I didn't want to have loans. I didn't want to have debt. This was the easiest way. Staying here, working for the town of Westport, I have to thank Joey Urquiola, who's no longer with us, and Tim Burke, who now lives in California, my former superintendent. If it wasn't for them, I would have never had a job. I would have never been able to support myself and have those hours. I got very lucky. And 3 years into college, I got into the University of Miami in Florida. It was my dream school. That is exactly where I wanted to go. And I was sitting in the lobby of the Harbor Beach Marriott, and I looked at this tuition, and it was $56,700 a year. And I said, all right, I think I know I'm smart. I think I have potential. I think I can do it, but I can't do this alone in debt. I was like, it doesn't matter where you go to school. It really doesn't. I can't stand it when people say, I went here, I went there. That's great, but that doesn't give you the right to have this sense of entitlement or this privilege. I can't stand it. It doesn't matter where you go to school. Some of the most fascinating people started off at community colleges and state schools, and they're doing much better than others. So I said to myself, you know what? All community college isn't bad. I'm going to continue with that. And I got into the University of Connecticut, and I had a partial scholarship, and I did that. And later on, I just got my master's from Fairfield University. It was a 3-year program. I did it in 2. I graduated top 3% of my class. I never thought I could do that. I didn't think that. So talking with Sammy Urquiola last week, and he goes, we're all smart. We just have to find what we're passionate about and stick with it. And that was it. So that's why I stuck with Westport, though, because I always had a home here. It was always pulling me back. I tried living in Florida. I visited Texas, the Carolinas. They're all beautiful places, but I love visiting. I like being up here. I like the seasons. I like how every weekend there's always something going on in Westport. Last weekend we had Slice of Saugatuck. Before that we had Lobster Fest. Before that we had We just had Earth Place this past weekend. We have more events coming up. We have the Oktoberfest that's coming up. We have Westport Moms with Megan and Melissa, who I've been helping with to get their first event on town property. And it's going to be successful. You have to come out. I think it's October 19th. And it's going to be a fun event at the beach. But that's the thing, though. There are so many people in this community. We're roughly 22,000 registered voters now, 29 to 30,000 residents at this point, I believe. And I would say about half of them are really not just dedicated to their families, their jobs, but they're dedicated to this town. And there's a lot of people in this town that care. And a lot of places I go, I don't see that in other communities. I don't want to go to a community where people go in and they go out. That's it. Like, you go in, you do your 8 hours, and you go home. No, this is completely different.
So through your service on the RTM, how many terms now?
I believe 4.
What have you learned about the town by being inside government?
The best, starting when I was 25 and I got elected, I still hold that record for being the youngest to ever run. However, I think Ira Bloom may have me beat. I don't know. He says that he's been on the RTM since he was 10. I love him. But the RTM is, it can be a circus, but it's a fun circus. You have 36 different walks of life. They all have a story. They all have little things that tick them off. They all have little things that they're passionate about. RTM to me is Jesuit. You have to know a little bit about everything in this town. You have to be aware of what's going on environmentally, socially, economically, what's going on in public works, public protection, health and human services. We have 16 different committees that all 36 of us could be appointed to. And then we have about 35 or 42 committees in town that you can be appointed to. So there's always something going on. Excuse me. The RTM, what I love the most, and I didn't really know about it until I was probably about 19. And then when I was 24, you posted something on your blog, which I read every day. It's like literally the first thing when I roll over in bed between like 5:45 and 6 a.m. is, 6 a.m. I'm like, all right, who wrote what? What's going on here? What do I got to know about? And that's where I started figuring out, all right, there's a lot that the town goes to. And the RTM is the last stop. We either pass on the buck or the buck stops here. You come to us about problems. You come to us about things that are going on in town. Any one of the 36 you can speak to. I go beyond my district every day, all the time, because I feel like that's, as a member of the community, as someone who is a voice of the community and elected by the community, you represent the entirety of the community. And there are things that I'm not going to agree with on. There are things that I'm not going to like what people say, but I have to listen to it and I have to accept what they say.
What was your most important vote and your toughest vote?
Most important vote. That's a lot of votes. Most important vote that probably stands out to me, SROs in the school.
School resource officers.
Yep. That one was very important to me. I was very passionate about that because the law enforcement that we have in this town is extremely talented, and they wanted to be in the schools. They wanted to help. Officers are not just officers. They're humans. They have kids as well. They go to work every day. They could lose not only their job, but their life at any time now because of the way society has viewed them over the last couple of years. And it's been very unfair. It's been a blanketed, divisive environment with them, but it is slowly starting to get better. And when I proposed SROs in 2018 or 2019, it was with Nicole Klein, and the Board of Finance had rejected SROs in the school. Board of Ed wanted them. And I agree with the Board of Ed about half the time, maybe about 70% of the time. But when they said that they wanted SROs in the school, I was like, oh, thank God. They agree with me on this. The safety of our students is number one. Powder keg for me was April 20th of 1999. I was in elementary school. That was when Columbine happened. And then December 14, 2012, Sandy Hook. That should really, really tell you that it is possible. And I had members on the RTM that they shared their opinion with me. They're like, it could never happen in Westport. It could never happen in the elementary school. You realize what happened 35 minutes away from here? My aunt works for the police department in Newtown. She's the assistant to the chief of police. And she just told me about what was going on that day. And we had former state troopers that retired and came to work for the town of Westport, and they spoke to me about it. My neighbor, Caitlin Roy DeBellis, she was the teacher that survived Sandy Hook in a bathroom with 15 students. And when I wanted to know how someone felt about SROs, I went straight to her about school security. Why? Because unfortunately, she's an expert in that. She knows. And that was my most important vote. And that was just recent, too.
Yeah.
We voted on SSOs to be in the school. And you know what? It's better than not having them.
Now they're there.
You can't take risks and chances like that with the society that we have now. You can't.
Toughest vote?
Toughest vote?
One that kept you up at night? Probably last night's vote. And that was?
The vote that we had last night was a petition brought by, to me, I believe he's a great resident. He's tough. His name's John McCarthy. Just recently met him, aware that he's been a Westport resident his whole life. He left, he came back like majority of people in town. And he was very passionate about his petition that shall means shall, which I completely agree with. I thought that's definitive. Shall means shall. And that the RTM should have to hear what comes, we have to accept and hear what comes before them. And that's where I thought to myself, okay, I love hearing from the public. I'm on blogs, pages, every day. Whenever I get a free moment, whether I'm eating alone or I'm taking a quick ride on my jet ski throughout Long Island or I'm watering my garden, which I'm completely passionate about. I love my garden. I picked that up in 2019. But I call that the watering hole. A lot of people will stop by and they'll start talking to me about what's going on. And I like to hear from people in town about what bothers them, what they're concerned about, because I may not hear everything. And that bothers me. I want to know what is going on. I want to help people. And he brought up a really good argument. And what I wanted to see was change. I would love to see change at the RTM. And I think the rules committee we are going to meet again. And I was told that no matter what happens, whether this is voted up or down, we're going to meet again. And there are a few changes that we have suggested. 15-minute public conversation before the meeting at the RTM. Having to come to the rules committee to discuss petitions before they go to the RTM, because we don't want to open up Pandora's box where you're going to get frivolous petitions that would be petitions of a vote of no confidence against certain town employees, against certain town departments. I find that to be a little bit, it's bullying. It's nasty. And, people say politics is nasty. It doesn't have to be nasty. It doesn't need to be nasty. There is a way to get your point across without cutting someone's throat, without hurting them, without attacking them, without destroying them, and without making it personable. And Margaret Thatcher said, the minute you make your argument personal, it's not a political debate. It's now personal. And you have no credibility, no character, and no spine. When you make it personal, there's something wrong with you when you do that, because it's a weak way to get your point. So that vote last night had me up, because I was like, I love freedom of speech. I love being able to make the changes, but we're not ready for this. So I voted no. But I had voted yes in committee, and it is bothering me. It is. But what makes me happy is that we're going to meet in the next month. We're going to discuss changes, and we're going to put the power in the people, and the people of this community steer the RTM, and they tell us where to go, and we steer it, and that's what I'd like to do.
So looking at town government, the entirety of it, all the boards, all the commissions, select women, RTM, elected, appointed. Are we in a good spot? Are you positive about town government? Are we veering toward what's happening nationally? What's your view on that?
Westport is an island. I don't think we're veering into what's happening nationally. I really don't. I think our town keeps a very good shape of not letting national politics control us or manipulate us or get in our way. I mean, we do get a little flustered every once in a while. We see what's going on TV, and then we get angry. We compartmentalize that. We also let it control our moods that day, and then it can cause us to flip out. I mean, I've seen plenty of people flip out in town meetings and get nasty, and then they make it into a national issue. They start bringing national issues, and, freedom of speech, you're allowed to discuss what bothers you at the national level, but here, we don't let that happen. We're a very inclusive town. Monday morning, 8 a.m., a company was here to paint the rainbow crosswalk, and it's beautiful. I love it. Very inclusive. We're very open here. We have so many other things that are just going on in town that give all walks of life an opportunity, but also this warm sensation of you are welcomed here. You are accepted here. We're all welcomed here. We're all accepted here. Our town government does an extremely well job doing that. You do have the 1% on either side of the party in town that does try to make it into a national issue in town. They even use it to go after our Board of Select Women. They use it to go after certain members on the RTM, Parks and Rec Commission, Board of Education. I don't appreciate that. Because obviously they may either have a personal agenda or they have a problem with that individual, and it's not even about the issue at hand. Or they say, a lot of people complain about the speediness of government. It's bureaucracy. It's not going to happen overnight. It can't.
You get things done, though. You manage to get things done. For instance, the trees at Sakura.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? How'd you save them?
Well, that's an example of bureaucracy. It's didn't happen overnight. I went to Sakura in February. One of the new owner, I should say, Nicole Chen, approached me, and the bartender had told her that I was on the RTM and that I've been coming here since I was like 6 years old. So she approached me and she said, I need to discuss something with you. And I went, okay. She goes, I don't want to disturb your dinner. And I go, I don't care. Well, you could talk to me at any time. You really can. Open door policy. I have an open chair. Just sit down. I got nothing else going on. It'll probably distract with whatever's going on in my mind. And she told me, she goes, they want to cut down the trees in front of Sakura. And I said, why? Are they dead? Are they sick? Are they intruding on anything? She goes, no, they're expanding the post road. We had a meeting April of 2019, I believe it was. Project 158-215, State of Connecticut. Upgrade to all the intersections throughout the post road corridor. And they're all state owned. They're not town owned. They are state owned. So for everyone home, a lot of the intersections are state controlled. The town has no say over it, but we can go to the state and talk to them about it. But now they're getting updated, so thank God. So I was happy to see that. All right, these intersections are getting updated. You want to take trees down like this? No way. I had to pick and choose my battles. The trees in front of Stop and Shop, I did go after them for. But the trees in Sakura, that meant a lot to me. That is the season opener in Westport for spring. That is the indicator of when, I guess it's spring, I guess no more snow. I think we're good, except for that one time, April of like 2012, 2013, when we got a blizzard in April. New England weather. Wait 15 minutes and it'll change. Decided, all right, I'm going to get everyone from Sakura. We are going to go to the tree board meeting and we're going to discuss this. Went to the tree board meeting in Lewis Mall. I call him the tree godfather in town because he's very passionate about trees. Another RTM member who is passionate about a particular subject, and that's trees. And he was with me. And I went, oh, he's here for the same thing. No, he was here for a completely different thing. And I accidentally hijacked the meeting because I said, listen, we need to discuss what's going on in town right now. They want to cut down the 2 weeping willows in front of Sakura, and they're completely fine. They've been there 40 years. Why is that a problem? I said, the telephone poles are out of line. They're about 12 feet away from the actual trees. They already have power lines going from the telephone pole at the beginning of Sakura on Mitchell's property going across the street, well over 14 feet, 5 inches, state of Connecticut regulation where you don't have to have any signage. Any tractor trailer can pass under it. So guess what? I found a solution. Those power lines could easily be rerouted across the street back to McDonald's where the primary site is for power. I was like, I got this. But they're going to meet Friday. And I was talking with Pete Rakowicz, our director of public works. I was talking to this very nice man, Joe, I can't pronounce his last name, but I'm going to try my best, Arsemowitz. He was one of the DOT engineers. And they were discussing about having a meeting at Friday morning. I said, we got to go there. We have to. We got to show them that this is what we want. I showed up, Matt Mandel, Claudia Schaum, Jay Keenan, Harris Falk, Chris Tate, Matthew Mandel, Don O'Day, members of the tree board, very nice representative from Earth Place, and Nicole Chen and the owner of Sakura, the property owner, John. And News 12 was there. The state saw it and they got in their trucks and they left. I went, oh my God, no. So News 12 did their story, did their recording, did everything. Then they left, and the state gets on the phone, with Pete Rakowicz and says, we're not coming back until News 12 leaves. We don't need this. I went, okay, that's fine. News 12 leaves. The state guys show up with Guerrera, and they're on front of the property in front of Sakura. And it was like in Seinfeld, where they're coming from either end of the block, and they meet right in the middle, the RTM and the town people and the state guys. And the state said, listen, we have a meeting to do. This is not an open meeting. I said, but we're here and we're out in the open. He goes, okay, fine. I went, we want these 2 trees saved. I went, they represent the cultural identity of the restaurant. They're a big part of Westport. And this is what everyone looks forward to at the restaurant. It's not just the food, but it's the atmosphere. It's the aesthetics. Can't use the word character, but I'm going to use it anyway. I'm sorry. It's the character. And Pete Rakowicz worked hard, as well as Joe from the state, and he even said, he goes, I think we can do this. And then I got an email about 2 months later saying, the trees are saved. You did a good job. And I was happy, but I also have support. So it's not just me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the power of local government.
Yes.
And the power of getting people involved. We only got a couple of minutes left. It goes quickly.
Yes, it does.
So a couple of quick answers, just the Westport according to Andrew Colabella. Favorite hangout?
The beach. Always. Campo Beach, right by the mouth of the marina. I'm always there.
Favorite restaurant?
Oh, that's tough. During the day, it's between Romanacci's, Pink Sumo, Spotted Horse, Studio Cafe. Studio Cafe is like my breakfast place, and the Sherwood Diner. I can't just do one. I can't.
Okay.
Then at dinner,
that's a good range.
Sakura, Viva's. Viva's is my favorite place at night, especially Sunday, Mondays, and Tuesdays, because there's no one there. It's so quiet. You get to take in the history of that place.
Favorite place in Westport that no one knows about? Hidden gem.
I can't tell people that. My favorite hidden place in Westport, Riverside Park. Riverside Park.
The new Riverside Park.
Yeah, the new Riverside Park, Parks and Recreation, did an amazing job opening that place up, expanding it, and making it and beautifying it. You go walk all the way to the end. It's like watching the world spin when you're standing right on the edge of the river, and you never see the river like that. It's a great view. You have to go. Please go.
Favorite event?
4th of July, fireworks by the Westport Police Athletic League, which I'm a board member of since 2019. I love those fireworks. It is my favorite event. You've obviously seen the photos of me dressed up like an American flag. I'll do that until the day I'm dead.
Most interesting person in town?
Oh. I'll save that one for last.
Okay.
I think about that one.
Most interesting person in town that you haven't yet met or would like to get to know better?
Michael Rappaport. He just moved to Westport about a year ago. I follow him on Instagram. He actually took a video while he was driving last week, and he went right by my garden, and I got so excited. So I was like, oh my God, this guy is here. I want to meet Michael Rappaport.
A lot of people don't know he's here.
I know. He hides, he's elusive. He hides very well.
Yeah. Any plans to run for another office?
Yes. My dream someday is to run for first selectman. That's not a secret. I would love to lead this town. I would lead in the best interest of Westporters from both parties. And a lot of people don't like that. But I would love to represent Westport on both ends. I want to hear from both parties. Because true leadership is not just about the party, it's about the people. I am fiscally conservative. Yes, I'm a registered Republican. People may not like that, but once you get to know me and you actually get to talk to me, instead of judging me by the R next to my name or the red color of my party, you realize that I'm not so divisive. I'm not so like the rest of mainstream media perceives certain parties. That's why you got to stay away from mainstream media sometimes. Do your own research, do your own homework, go to scholarly sources, scholarly journals. There's EBSCO, there's Westlaw, LexisNexis. Do your research. It's there. I'm very open to what's best for Westport. I do want to lead Westport someday. I really do.
Any idea when?
I don't know. I have to be nominated. Have to be nominated. That may happen, it may not. But
You have to be 35 to run for president of the United States.
Yep.
I don't think there's an age limit for first selectman.
No. One of my good friends, Tim Herbst, he was first selectman of Trumbull. My friend right now, Brenda Kupchik, she's the mayor of Fairfield. I have a couple of friends that are in office throughout the United States, but that's, we'll see. Oh, when Will Haskell ran for state, I remember I was driving through New Canaan. I was coming back from a car show. There he was. He had his khakis, his blue button down, brown loafers, and he was going door to door. You're in the wealthiest part of New Canaan where the driveways are 1,100 feet long. And I rolled over and I went, dude, do you need a ride? He goes, no, I'm good. I'm like, are you sure? Because the next house is about a quarter of a mile. So I gave him a ride. And I was like, dude, if you need help, let me know. And I'm sure he'll return to government at some point, but there's plenty of great people in this town, this state, and this country that are running for office. Put the politics to the side. Look at the person. That's what's most important.
Sounds good. And we will continue to follow your career. You will continue to contribute to 06880, I hope. And
I'm going to keep doing that. And then, favorite person in Westport? You. Honest. What you do for this town, but also what you do in your own free time is highlight the town in many ways. You give people an opportunity to speak. You give them a platform, a view into the town, the history, and also as well as the future, but also an opportunity to theorize and also look into what's best for Westport. That's it.
I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Andrew Colabella, thank you for coming on 06880, the podcast, and on we go.
On we go.
Thank you.